Tgim. Thank God it is Monday, today, the 9th of August, 2021. And I am very delighted to see all of you. Thank you for joining in, the regulars, those that are joining in for the first time. And I believe that it is going to be a pleasant session. I will just share my screen. Okay, so today we are going to continue with our conversations on redefining work. And today we have two special, I'll call them conversationists, that will play a key role, but it is conversation. So I will invite each and every one of us to participate in the conversation. We have today joining us Pastor Alan Peter Guma, who pastors and is the founder of LCC. He will tell us what that is. And we also have Dr. Ernest, who also happens to be my mother. And we are talking about the place of character. I'll just give a brief background. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse number 2 that it is required of stewards that a man be found faithful. We've had, this is our fifth conversation. And for those of us that are joining in for the first time, last week, someone joined in midway when there was a person sharing and they were not sure what it was all about. And the purpose of our conversations is to review our mindsets about work, to build together a biblical view of work, to raise a workforce with a different spirit, a godly spirit at that, and to build consensus on how we can approach work productively. And these conversations are based on a book that I have written, whose title is A Different Spirit. If you have not yet grabbed yourself a copy, it costs only 20,000. And in this book, I redefine work and present a thesis that there's a crisis in the current understanding and approach to work that needs to be resolved through defining work as a calling, which should be approached with competence, character, and commitment, and for us to deal with corruption in the workplace. With our first conversation was about describing the crisis of our work. Then we looked at the example of Daniel. We considered work as a calling. And then last week we looked at competences for work. Today we are specifically looking at the place of character. And we shall see next week commitment to service, and then how to deal with corruption. And lastly, we shall crown it by describing a different spirit. We saw that we have so far seen that work today is in crisis because the typical worker does only what is on the job description and nothing more. And the typical public servant is disengaged. Yet there should be a better way. We have also seen that the biblical Daniel had a different spirit of excellence in all regard and no to compromise. We have also seen that God created work, God worked, created work, and created us to work. And so he calls us to work in the places that he has called us into. And this work involves both multiplying and preserving what is in our spheres. Last week we saw that for us to be effective workers, we need to develop appropriate competences such as wisdom or good judgment, extensive information in relation to our workspaces, and developing the relevant skill sets for our workplace and beyond. And so today we are looking at the place of character, and joining us in conversation, we have Pastor Alan Peter Guma and Dr. Eunice Tashobya. We are glad that they are already on the call. So I will stop my share so that we can see them and interact with them easier.
Hello, I don't know what is happening to the net.
Are you getting me well?
Network, you are breaking. I didn't get clearly what you were saying.
Am I breaking with the others as well?
You're clear here.
You're
Doctor,
clear. I can
Doctor,
hear you
I think
well.
it's your network.
Clear and audible.
Sorry about that. You may need to climb another hill. But I will introduce our first conversationist this afternoon, Pastor Alan Peter Guma. And like I mentioned, Pastor Alan Guma is a founder and lead pastor. I'll give you the opportunity to tell us about his church, which for now I'll call LCC, the church that he leads, together with his wife, Pastor Jackie Guma, and the leadership team, and also to tell us about his work. Pastor Alan, you're welcome. Please introduce yourself to us, who you are, and what you do. Over to you, Alan. Pastor Alan, are you there? Okay, as Pastor Alan sets himself, I will request our second conversationist, who is also on, to introduce herself to us. Like I mentioned, Dr. Eunice Tashobya also happens to be my mother, and I am sure that I am seeing that her audio is still, she's still connecting her audio, or rather her audio is not connected. So I will give her time to connect. Pastor Alan, are you now hearing us? Okay, as they set themselves, we shall continue the discussion on the place of character. And I will start this conversation with an illustration. Let me try to get back to my screen share. As I can see, Pastor Jackie is on. Pastor Jackie, please help me reach out to Pastor Alan so that we can have our discussion with him. In the meantime, as that is sorted, I will share a brief illustration with us. Okay, which is the impact of breach of character. I want us to consider this illustration, which shall be the starting point for our discussion this afternoon. What is the impact of breach of character? And I've placed on the screen a simple illustration. I've used a character that we have called Musa. Musa is paid 1 million shillings per month, but every day he comes late by 1 hour. During the day, he spends another 2 hours on items such as social media and chatting with his colleagues. Every fortnight, he misses 1 day without cause. So what does that amount to? If we take the 3 hours that he wastes coming late or chatting times 5 days, that's 15 hours. Considering that a working day has 8 hours on average, that means that every week he will have wasted away 2 working days. Now, when we add the 1 day that he missed per fortnight, which translates into half a day per week, it will mean that every week he actually misses 2.5 days. So since a working week has 5 days, this means 50% of his salary would have been stolen, which is 500,000 shillings since he earns 1 million. Assuming that the basic malaria dose is about 20,000 shillings, that means that each month he steals 25 malaria doses. Now, when we consider that malaria is one of the leading causes of death in the country, would I be wrong to call Musa a murderer? I don't know, have we ever considered it from that angle, that each time I get what I did not deserve, there are actually more consequences than just that simple action. That simple action could be something much, much bigger. That, for example, each time I use resources wrongly, it implies that I have deprived the right usage to those resources. I will invite comments to that illustration from 1 or 2 people as we try to connect back to our panelists. Any comments on that illustration? Anyone wants to go first?
No, Ernest.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. You stretched my mind further than I had ever thought. Never thought of myself affecting, up to that extent, somebody's medicine and so on. But yes, indeed, I've always looked at cheated time is really cheating, cheating the organization, cheating God. So yes, it's true. When we do cheat that way, we actually thieves of some sort. Actually, as you were talking, I was thinking probably we are all thieves of some kind, whether we are employees or employers. There is something we cheat, and we need to rethink. We need to really be careful about that. Ask God to guide us as we do our work, on both sides.
Okay, thank you. At a bit, Mrs. Geria Beatrice, thank you for that observation. Each time we cheat, yes, that is true. Each time we fail to do what we ought to have done, the implication is that we are impacting much more. Okay, I think Dr. Eunice is now able to talk to us. Dr. Eunice, are you able to talk to us?
I believe so.
Okay. I hope I've not muted you accidentally. I've muted you accidentally. Please unmute. Once again, Dr. Eunice, I muted you accidentally. Okay, I think you're now unmuted. Yes, please, you're welcome once again to this. Please introduce yourself briefly to us and what you do, both what you do and how character has been able to help you in doing what you do. Over to you, Dr. Eunice.
Thank you, Ernest. What I do currently, I am a lecturer at Chambogo University in the Department of Sports Science. And my major responsibility is to carry out lectures according to those allocated to me, expected to supervise students' researches and also help them to grow. And then also at different points, I'm assigned responsibilities which I usually carry out. Now, character at the place of work, being a Christian, saved by the grace of God, has helped me a lot because I know that I am accountable to God, not only the supervisors placed above me, but to God who sees in secret and not just on the outside, so that I'm able to take it upon myself to do what is expected of me, which helps me a lot, such that as maybe my colleagues are thinking of other ways, I'm able to do the expected work. And I find that at the same time, I'm involved in Christian ministry. I'm also involved in girl guiding activities, such that at other times I am required to give service to these other places. And I find that whenever I am required, if it is coinciding with an activity at my place of work, usually I seek for permission And it has actually, I thank God that whenever I ask for permission, permission is granted. And when I ask for permission to be away, I have to get one of my colleagues to stand in for me so that I do not create gap from my place of work. So briefly, that is where I work. I don't know whether he wants me to go further than that.
Thank you for sharing with us. I believe that we have picked something from that sharing. And an aspect that I picked out of what you shared is that each time you need to be away from your workplace, you ask for permission to be away. And not only that, but you also make provision to make sure that the work still continues anyway. And also what struck me was that when you ask, usually it is granted. I want to believe that it is because of, let me request us to mute if we're not talking. I want to believe that it is probably because of the reputation that you have built that you are able to get the required authorization to be away from your workplace. Brenda typed in the chat room that, let me see, I like that approach. I think she was referring to the illustration that I gave at the beginning. I like that approach because it enables us to see the bigger picture regarding our seemingly small actions. Yes, thank you, Brenda. That is true. Our actions, however small, however big, will always have an impact on more than we actually intended to have an impact on. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Eunice. My next question to you, Dr. Eunice, is an interesting one. How would you describe your character? How would you describe your character, especially in relation to work? Would you, let me not prompt your response. How would you describe your character?
Thank you, Ernest, once again. It's difficult for me to really explain my character, but a few things maybe which I can refer to is that I am principled, and in that aspect would like things to be done the way they are supposed to be done, which actually many people find not really good on their part, because many people would like shortcuts, would like this and the other, and so that makes them find me a bit difficult. And I don't know what is on me in character that many people fear me. It's not until somebody has come close to me that they find me very easy and easy to deal with and simple. But I find that you better prompt me, because my character is difficult for me to explain. Other people would explain my character better than me, I would imagine.
Okay, that is well, no worries. Maybe we should ask seeing some of your friends on the call. Any one or two people who want to describe to us Dr. Eunice's character? And anything you picked from her? Let me see who I think. I will ambush you if you are quiet on me. I think the people I see on the call, again, it is I think it is Mrs. Geria that has interacted with her for a really long time. And Mrs. Semuju.
Mrs. Semuju and Olive Sentumbwe.
Okay, yes, Mrs. Geria, you had to tell us something about Dr. Eunice?
I could say a lot, but I'm going to let other people speak too. But there are many things I've seen and learned from her. She's, as she says, very principled. You will not pull her left or right. If she knows what she's doing is right, that's the direction she'll take. Another thing I know, she's very committed. She will never leave a task undone. What else can I say? Really God-centered in all her dealing. So you'll have honesty, you'll have truth, you'll have everything you need. On my side as an employee, what I could have learned from her as my senior, up to the extent of working to the last day to her labor. Imagine labor of her last born. So yes, that's Auntie Eunice.
Sorry, Ernest, you called me when I was trying to put my microphone on. But one thing I can say about Auntie Eunice is that her yes is yes and her no is no. That is how principled she is. You cannot bend her to see things, to do things your own way. And her commitment to a task is something that I've really come to like about her. When she sets out to do something, she does it with all the determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Semuju and Mrs. Geria for those insights about Dr. Eunice's character. What I heard is principled, that you did not bend her. Her yes is yes, her no is no, which is quite a challenge in today's work environment for us to really say what we mean and to stand by it. At times, we find it difficult, especially to say no to our superiors. I know that that is something that she does not find difficult to do. And commitment to a task to ensure it is done to completion. Those of us that were with us a few weeks ago, we talked about the creation work of God. And we said that God did not rest until he had completed creation and he had evaluated, and it was very good. And yes, thank you for that sharing. Our second conversationist, Pastor Alan, is now on and available. Like I mentioned, Pastor Alan Peter Guma is my friend. We have served God together in a number of areas, and he has also founded a church, which he will tell us about. So, Pastor Alan, please introduce yourself to us. Tell us about your work at the church, your work at your day job, and how you manage to do it. Pastor Alan, over to you. Oh, I hope we have it. Okay, yes, it's on. Yes, Alan, you're unmuted, but we do not hear you.
Okay, I hope now it's clear.
Yes, now we hear you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, my friend, Council Ernest. I'm delighted to be on this program today. My name is Alan Guma Peter. With the Ministry of Agriculture, with the ministry for about 13-year programs, but my main focus has been on developing programs and projects in line with Christ. And I've also been in ministry. I've served in ministry in different departments, in development, men's department, pastoral. I've done evangelism across East Africa. And now I'm interested in agribusiness, things such as aquaculture, things. Thank you so much, Council Ernest.
Okay, you're welcome once again, Pastor Guma. Please tell us about what are those characteristics that have helped you to work diligently? What do you see that has helped you to be effective? What are those character traits that you feel have helped you to work effectively at your workplace?
Thank you so much. I can talk of 2 or 3 character traits. First and foremost, it's the character trait of depending on God. Deceptive. His heart is deceptive. Man will always try to pursue things that end up making their character that which is desired in the workplace. People pursue many things looking like they're doing the right thing, but when their intention is wrong. So the first thing is your intention being God-centered. So after that, the next key character is I try to be accommodative. You know, I approach my work from a pastoral angle. So when I detect something that seems not to be right, I try to be accommodative and slowly work with different people to ensure that they are seeing what I see. So in a nutshell, that's what I can say has been my major character in the workplace. Back to
Okay, thank you. I have picked 2 things from what you said, looking beyond just actions to intentions. What is my intention? What in doing this, rather than just simply focusing on the actions. In law, we talk about mens rea. And also being accommodative. I would actually want to hear being accommodative versus being strict. Where does the weighing scale tilt? How accommodative should we be of other workers? But we shall get to that question a little later, because Akachsima John Vincent has brought in a very interesting question, which actually ties in well with where I was going to go. He says, hello, thank you for the conversation. Dr. Eunice, please prepare to answer this question. Hello, thank you for the conversation. To what extent do organizational policies and dictates shape individual character? Okay, where do the two meet? Individual policies and dictates and versus individual character. to what extent should we align to our organizational goals? And what comes to mind especially is what of those instances where we feel that our organizational policies do not reflect our personal values? Dr. Eunice, please speak into that question. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, we have our organizational goals. At times they have the organizational values, policies, and so on. And of course, each individual now has their own beliefs. They have their individual character. But I think if I have gone to work in an organization, first of all, I need to know what that organization or institution stands for in order to be able to know how I am to fit in. Because you find that if it has its organizational policies, and that means there is a standard that I'm supposed to reach at. There are things which guide me as I do my work in that organization. So what extent they dictate and shape individuals' character? I don't think they really much dictate and shape the individual's character unless somebody really has been so much on the negative, and then one has to fit into what is expected of that particular person, because the policies guide you on what needs to be done. For example, if you are in the leadership and you are handling finances, the financial policy guides you on how do you account for how you are supposed to use that money, how do you account, and what does one do if there is some money remaining, and so on and so forth. So unless somebody is out to maybe cheat on the organization, the policies just gives you a way. Actually, it eases the individual on how they are supposed to carry out different things. So if maybe I was not going to do maybe the accountability, and I know they have given me money and I go and be done, then the policy will, I don't know, maybe that is where we are talking about the policy dictating on the individual's character. So if I go and do my assignment, do some expenditures, and the policies help me to do the accountability and return the balance. If I'm doing it over and over, then there is a way that I get used to it. So it builds positively on my character, that even outside the organization, when I am being sent to buy something, I am able to account for the money given to me. So to some extent, there is a way that it builds on the individual's character, because once it has helped you to move into the correct direction, you will not only do it at the place of work, because you are used to do it, it influences you on how you deal with different aspects of things, even outside the organization. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So what I hear you say is that organizational policies actually support the reflection of a right character at work. In light with that, how should we handle a situation where the company policies, the organizational policies seem to be at variance with our personal values? I'm looking at, for example, you're being required to do something that probably you feel is contrary to your faith, and yet you must survive. How can we deal with that, Dr. Ernest?
Where things are contrary to your faith and your belief, I wish I could get an example, because I think so far personally I have not encountered. If it is contradicting to my faith, what I believe, though I'm failing to get an example, I think I would have to maybe talk with my supervisors. It does not compromise my stand.
Let me give an example in your area, because you told us that you lecture. What if you had a scenario, for example, where students are due to graduate, maybe particular results are missing, and you were asked to come up with results for that course unit, or to add a student who failed marks so that they can graduate because they've been in the system too long. How can someone handle something like that?
I don't know who would be saying that. Institution, they wouldn't really want you to concoct marks. Maybe I could imagine it could be a head of department or what, wanting the students to graduate. But I would not, personally, I would not do what? I would not agree to concoct that the marks. Actually, now that reminds me, because I was given the responsibility of coding, and when I was compiling results, I found out that one class had missed a unit, and yet they had completed the second semester. So what I did, I raised this issue to the head of department, and we had to work out a way, not to concoct marks, but we had to inform the students that they missed out that unit, and we had to make special arrangements for them to attend lectures. Actually, they had to come back to the university and have a special program where a lecturer had to take them through that unit, which helped them to get the marks. So there was no way I could say, yes, we concoct the marks. No, they must study, they must do the assignments, and they do examination, which was done, and then they have the proper results. For the person who has stayed on the on the program for quite some time, that person is, my view is that that person is helped as an individual, helped in that, helped to understand what is being, just add marks onto that person. Otherwise, you bring out which is not worthy of the institution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that experience. So what I hear you say is that find a way around that fits with your values. If you can't find it, you would rather quit than regret later or live with a guilty conscience. Pastor Alan, you mentioned that you are a pastor. Please tell us about your church ministry and specifically what you are doing or what you can do or we can do as the church to build right character for the workplace. Pastor Alan, we're not hearing you, that though I can see you are trying to talk or you're talking.
Yes, they talk about.
Okay, yes, we heard that.
Yes. Yes. So leadership is all about character, or you can't have leaders unless you have people of good character.
Wow, your network is breaking.
Is that clear?
Okay, yes, yeah, that's
That I
better.
pastored leaders, Christians, nurturing leaders. Have leaders unless you have people of good character. So our focus as a ministry is to see everyone look at themselves as a leader. If you're riding a boda, you work with good character. If you have something to deliver, you deliver it. If you're in position, you see yourself as a carry out your duties. Character is a product of nurturing people, then those people nurture others, and then it becomes a culture. So without a culture of doing things, we cannot have people of good character. That is because people tend to full of people who believe in certain values, like Dr. Ernest. You'll find even others. If an environment is made.
Okay, Pastor Alan, it looks like your network is breaking. I'm going to request you to log out and log in again so that we can pick you properly. Actually, I think Pastor Alan has fallen out as he tries to as it tries to log in again, I will ask a final question to Dr. Eunice. Dr. Eunice, how can we deal with colleagues who appear not to be abiding by the required standards of character, the right standard of values? This could be a colleague at the same level, it could be a supervisor, it could be a subordinate. How can we deal with those people in an appropriate way?
As the pastor has said, to some extent, one has to be accommodative. And top of that, I believe them to see how the situation. So one, the first take, one it would be vigil, and then after that, and asking God for guidance would be to talk to that person. So inviting the person and try to point out the negative thing that he or she is doing, because at times some people do things unconsciously, or they find themselves doing it. But I would maybe try to walk with that person a journey of helping the person come out habit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. What I'm hearing is walk with the person. That is, if you're able to. I'm imagining a situation, if it's my boss, I may fear to walk with them. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Eunice and Pastor Alan. I don't know whether he's back in. I will invite one or two people to make a comment, contribution, or ask a question as we close. Anyone with a question or comment? Okay, if there is none, I want to thank you for joining in, each and every one of you for joining in this conversation. Thank you very much. I appreciate, I hope you have picked a thing or two. The first timers, those that have been with us regularly, thank you very much. I'll encourage, thank you very much, Dr. Eunice, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, Pastor Guma, for sharing your thoughts with us as well. I'll just encourage us to build the appropriate character, and what I will encourage us as a way of building appropriate character is number one, to establish your own value system. Take time to reflect, what are your personal values? Let our values not be reactive, but let them be proactive. Let us think about them in advance. Sit down, take off a personal retreat, personal time, and walk through what are my values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are my values? What is my bottom line? That is something that I learned recently, a list of I shall never, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we have this, it helps us to know how to respond when those situations come up. And then after that, look at our work values. What are if I am employed, what are my institutional values? I wondered how many of us, if we were asked, what are the core values of your institution? I'm not sure whether you would be able to say them, but I think that it is important as well for us to internalize our institutional values and then see how do they relate with our personal values. Therefore, how am I expected to present myself? If the institution is saying we are customer oriented, what does it mean to be customer oriented? And this goes as well to those of us that are in the private sector, in personal business. Build a value set for that institution, for that business, and let us see those values lived out. When we build character, then we shall be able to stand tall. And if our personal values collide with our institutional values, then we should be able to let our personal values stand out. Like we saw with the illustration for this series, Daniel, he was able to have personal values. He said, I must pray 3 times a day. He said, I must know, and when his personal values clashed with the values of his employer, of his employers, of his bosses, he said, no, pray to the emperor, I will not, because that is contrary to my values. But every other aspect of his character, he aligned, right? So that when his colleagues tried to find out whether there was anything wrong, they failed to find any dirt. Once again, I want to thank you for joining in. Thank you for those comments in the chat. Dr. Eunice, the person no one sees is the person you really are. And we need to give careful attention to the real us. And there was an earlier question that I intentionally did not read. I think it was something like, what is this different spirit? This different spirit is being able to have your value sets clear and you not compromising to them regardless of anything. You being able to stand and say, this is what I stand for in the workplace. I do not care whether I lose this business or not. A friend of mine recently narrated how someone came into their business and tried to trick them to see whether they were willing to inflate prices of the commodities they were selling. And after pleading and pleading with them a lot, and them refusing, is when he disclosed that he was actually carrying out a secret investigation to find out which people to partner with in business. Thank you once again for joining in. I appreciate you. I recognize my wife, Sepia, who is on the call. And I earlier saw all the grandpa, Dr. Mpeire. Thank you for joining in. All our friends, all colleagues, people like Erin, who have been with us almost all the conversations. Thank you for always joining in. And each and every one of you, I treasure each and every one of you. Let us meet next Monday, 1 to 2 p.m. God bless you. I wish you a pleasant week and TGIM. Thank God it is Monday. God bless you abundantly.